biography series of Rabindranath Tagore. This 11-year-old boy writes poetry? This question was asked by the headmaster of the Bengal Academy in Calcutta. Yes, replied the boy shyly. The headmaster could not believe it. Is it? Then I shall give you a poem of 2 lines. You complete it, he said. The 2 lines was, when the merciless sun was scorching everyone, this belief that it would rain gave them hope. When the headmaster gave these 2 lines, the young boy immediately added 2 more lines. And the line was, the fish staying at the bottom of the pond now came to the surface, swimming and splashing happily. The headmaster was filled with joy on hearing this title. This gifted boy was none other than Rabindranath Tagore himself, who later made a great contribution to Indian literature by winning the Nobel Prize. Childhood. Rabindranath Tagore was born to Debendranath Tagore and Sharada Devi on 7th May in the year 1861. He was born at Jorasanko. After the Battle of Plassey in 1757, Calcutta began to grow into a big city. Rich Bengali families built big houses and bungalows beside the river Ganga. In Pathuriyaghatta, Jorasanko area, the Tagore family was one among these big families. Nilmoni of the Tagore family owned a house here. Nilmoni had a grandson called Dwarkanath Tagore. Dwarkanath had a son by name Debendranath, and one of his grandsons was Rabindranath. Debendranath, Rabindranath's father, was interested in religious matter even from a young age. Debendranath was 29 years of age when his father, Dwarkanath, passed away. Now, Debendranath had to take the responsibility of the big family as he was the eldest one. He had many problems, including huge loans which had to be repaid. Repaying his father's debts became something like a penance to Debendranath. He gave up his own wants and wishes and tried to repay the debts as soon as possible. Slowly, he brought the financial affairs of the family to a normal state. When Rabindranath Tagore was born, the wealth of the Tagore family was no longer here. The family now led a simple life. The children of the family wore simple cotton clothes and did not have many toys to play with. Rabindranath did not have the opportunity of growing up with his mother's attention of care. His mother, Sharada Devi, had to look after a big family and had too many responsibilities. She did not have the time to look after the 14th child, Rabindranath. The servants of the house looked after the children. Rabindranath, his elder brother Somendranath, and his sister's son Satyaprasad were brought in the same group. They were brought up mainly by servants. But this was not an advantage to them. Sham, the servant who took care of them, did not like children running around the house. To make this own work easier, Sham used to lock up Rabindranath in a room. He would draw a circle around Rabi and warn him that it was dangerous to cross that line. Young Rabi had heard the story of Ramayana. At such time, he would remember the big mistake Sita made by crossing Lakshmana's line. Getting scared of such consequences, he would not dare to cross the Sham's line. left alone in the room. He would sit by the window and enjoy beauty of nature outside. Not far from the window was a pond. On one side of his pond was a row of coconut palm, and on another side there was an ancient banyan tree with its long roots hanging from its branches. The world outside his house, the beautiful surroundings, looked wonderful and attractive to him. In those times, different kinds of entertainments like theatres, TV, or sports were not available to children. Rabindranath would play alone. He used to live in his own world of dreams and imagination. Even from his childhood days, Rabindranath was very much attracted to the beauty of nature. The garden, with all the plants and flowers, that water in the pond, the blue sky, and everything else around his house would attract him. After waking up in the morning, he would run into the garden. He liked the smell of grass, which was wet with dewdrops, while the morning rays of the sun fell on half-blossomed flowers. Rabindranath would watch with wonder. School days. Rabindranath was admitted into Oriental Seminar School. He found school life hard and boring. School seems more like a prison to him, and the atmosphere in school was more strict than his house. In his house, he could sit by the window and gaze at the beauty of nature, but in school, even this much of freedom was not given to him. He was not interested in lessons. As a result, many times he was made to stand on the bench with a chalk piece kept on his head. Along with his brothers Somendra and Satyendra, Rabindranath was also taken out of seminary school. All the three boys were then admitted to normal school. Now, young Rabi hardly had any free time. Waking up early in the morning, the young boys would learn wrestling. Immediately after this, they had to attend tuition classes given at home. The time between 10 o'clock in the morning and 4 o'clock in the evening was spent at school. Coming home from school was not a relief or relaxation for them. They had to attend classes on fine arts or paintings. Later, a teacher would come to their house to teach them anatomy and also English. Even on Sundays, they could not rest on the holidays. They had to learn music and conduct experiments in science. Rabi had interest in these two fields. Along with all tuitions and classes, they were taught by Rabi's brother Hemendra, who was 17 years older than Rabi. Young Rabi always pitied the poor and the sufferings. When any poor man came begging, Rabi used to give away anything he could find. Many times he was scolded by his elders for having given away valuable items of the house. Rabi had a close relative named Jyoti Prakash. Rabi learned to write poems according to rules of poetry and most shining words. Jyoti Prakash not only taught him these things but also inspired Rabi to write poems. Rabi took a notebook and started writing poems in it. Somendra was very proud of Rabi's talent. He started telling others about Rabi's poem. Even the headmaster of the normal school in which Rabi was studying came to know about this. He could not believe that a boy of 11 years writes poetry. Then he saw to himself the gift of poetry in Rabi and was overjoyed and impressed with it. Rabi not only wrote songs, but he would also give them tunes and rhythm. Even his brothers, Hemendra, were lovers of music. In fact, music came as a special natural ability to the Tagore family. At the Himalayas, when Rabi was nearly 11 years old, he and his brothers had to undergo the sacred thread ceremony or Brahmopadesha. After being given the sacred thread, he had to daily do some rituals and pujas. Among these was the learning and reciting of the Gayatri mantras. Rabi liked these mantras and was very interested in reciting them, though he could not understand them. Rabi's father, Debendranath Tagore, was always interested in religious and spiritual matters. On seeing his simple life and devotion to God, the people of the city used to call him Maharshi, meaning the great saint. Debendranath Tagore decided to travel to some parts of India and then go to the Himalayas to start his meditation. Rabi came to know that his father wanted to take him along. Now, his happiness knew no bounds. His dream of seeing the world outside would now come true. His father brought new clothes for Rabi for their journey to the Himalayas. They had to first go to Bolpur. Debendranath had bought some land for his meditation at Bolpur. He had also got a small house built there and he named it Shantiniketan. Rabindra found this place ideal for him. There were vast meadows or open spaces, palm trees, and the blue sky which attracted him. Debendranath Tagore, Maharshi, gave some responsibilities to young Rabindra. Rabi had to daily write some stanza of prayers from the Bhagavad Gita. His father would teach him about stars, planets, and such things, and Rabi had to write what he had learnt and shown it to Maharshi. Maharshi also taught him Sanskrit and English every morning. After the lessons, Rabindra would be free as a bird with no restrictions or work. The new enchanting surroundings used to make him happy. Maharshi gave 3 or 4 anans daily to his son. If they came across any beggar during their morning walk, Maharshi would tell Rabi to give something to the beggar. Rabi would give the money he got daily from his father. Every evening, Rabi would write an account of how he spent the money. By now, Rabindra was a small poet by himself. Now, instead of his notebook, he had a diary in which he wrote his poems. In the afternoons, he would sit beneath a coconut tree, stretching his legs, and he would fully involve in writing the poems. The Defeat of Prithvi was one of the poems he wrote in Bolpur. Later, Maharshi and Rabindra travelled from Bolpur to Amritsar. There they used to visit the Golden Temple daily. Maharshi knew devotional songs of the Sikh and he would actively take part in the worship and prayers at the Golden Temple. Rabi used to get sweets. Haik Lalwa, which had been offered to God. The father and son spent nearly 1 month at Amritsar and they left for Dalhousie. There they stayed at a bungalow in the highest part of Barkota. It was the month of April and still the winter has not passed in these slopes of the Himalayas. In many places the snow had not melted. After morning prayers, Rabindra and his father would go on a walk and breathe the fresh air of the morning. It would be very cold, and Ravi would find it difficult to keep pace with his father. After some time, he would return alone to their bungalow. Even in Dalhousie, Maharshi used to teach Rabindra English and Sanskrit. His way of teaching Sanskrit was different. For example, he made Rabindra read only the original text of Valmiki Ramayana. He had to write essays in Sanskrit. After his lessons, Rabindra used to take bath in cold water in that cold weather and would immediately drink hot milk. It was Maharshi's opinion that if children grew up in clean environment, they would have healthy minds and bodies. During afternoons, Rabindra would be free to go anywhere and engage in any activity. Rabindra would happily walk around in the shadow of the huge trees which were around their bungalow. Back to Calcutta. After some months, Rabindra was sent back to Calcutta with a trusted servant. Now, the 12-year-old Rabindra was no longer the quiet and shy boy. He was now active and self-confident. At Calcutta, he was admitted to St. Xavier School, but even now he was not interested in classes. Instead of sending him to school, it was arranged for some teachers to come to their house and teach him lessons. One of the teachers adopted a new method of teaching. Seeing the interest in literature, his teaching would be different. He placed off Kalidasas like Shakuntala and Kumara Sambhava. He also used to explain their meanings in Bengali language. He gave Rabindra the task of reading Shakespeare play, Macbeth, and translating it to Bengali. In a few months, Rabindra had finished translating the entire play. In order to encourage him, the teacher took him to Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. Vidyasagar read the translation and praised Rabindra very much. When Rabindra was 14 years old, his mother Sharda Devi passed away. Then the Jyotirinda's wife Kadambari Devi now looked after Rabindra. Now no one tried to send Rabindra to school, but Rabindra did not stop learning. He increased and improved his knowledge by reading books of all kinds which he could find. Many a time he would forget everything else and read late into the night. The budding poet. Rabindra had many poets, writers, Sanskrit scholars, and artists among his relatives. His contact with them helped the all-around development of his personality and talent. He also gained knowledge from his talented and hard-working brothers. He studied the understood Upanishad. Though he could not completely understand, he used to read the Gita Govinda, putting much effort. In his 14th year, Rabindra read his poetry at a public gathering for the first time on 11th Feb 1875. On this day, he read a poem at a meeting of the Hindi Mela. This Mela was organized in order to make the people aware of our Indian culture, philosophy, tradition, music, and art. The Tagore family was known for its traditional lifestyle, interest in literature, music, and Indian philosophy. Among his brothers, Rabindra became more attached to Jyotirendranath and also his sister-in-law, Kadambari Devi. Jyotirindra used to take Rabindra with him to many places. Often he would take Rabindra to their farm on the bank of river Padma. When he went to supervise the work, Rabindra's poem Banaful was published for the first time in the magazine called Jnana Nankur. He was then 15-year-old. At this time, plays written by Jyotirindra were being performed on stages at theatres. In Jyotirindra's play, Alik Babu, Rabindra acted for the first time and it was a main role of the play. After this, he began writing plays on his own and would act the important roles himself. Jyotirindra joined with his brother and started a journal called Bharati. Rabindra regularly contributed poems, short stories, and articles to this journal. Rabindra wrote poems and articles about the beauty of nature, love, music, and the many phases of the society. He became an established and recognized poet and writer. At England, when the journal Bharati was started, Rabindra's brother Satyendra was in England. Later, when he came to India during holidays, he expressed his wish that Rabindra too should go to England with him. He thought that it would be a good opportunity for Rabindra's study. Rabindra's father, Maharshi, also gladly agreed to this. So on September 20th in 1878, he set sail to England. Then he was a little over 17 years. Before joining the university, Rabindra had joined a public school for a few months. His classmates seemed to like the new Indian friend and they showed their affection in many ways. Often they would secretly put an apple or an orange into his pocket and run away. In the beginning, Rabindra stayed at his sister-in-law house, Jnana Nandini Devi's house. After joining the university at London, he stayed with his Scots, an English family. Rabindranath was lucky because Mr. Scott looked after him like a son. One of Rabindra's teachers at the university was the famous Henry Morley. He taught literature and often asked the students to write essays. Rabindra once wrote an essay on the improper attitude and conduct of the British in India. Fearing the reaction of his teacher, Rabindra did not go to school. The next day, he did not attend the class. Actually, Morley was very impressed by the first time. Rabindra later came to know that he had been praised in the class during his absence. Rabindra spent nearly 1.5 years in England. Even when he was in England, he used to send his writings to the journal Bharati. He regularly wrote letters under a column called Euro Prabhasir Patra, and from this we can know how much of English life and literature he was able to absorb. In London, even during winter, he continued his habit of bathing in cold water. Back to India. When Satyendra's stays in England ended, Maharshi wanted even Rabindra to return. After returning to India, he wrote a series of poems under the name Sandhya Sangeet, which were published in a book form. The lovers and critics of literature appreciated these poems. During this time, Rabindra had to attend a wedding. Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, the famous novelist, had come to that wedding. He was welcomed formally and a garland was put around his neck. Immediately, Bankim Chandra Chatterjee took off the garland and put it around Rabindra's neck. He said that Rabindra deserved the garland and it belonged to him. At this time, Jyotirindra was making a musical drama, Valmiki Pratibha. which attempt at combining the melodies of the East and West. Rabindra played the role of Valmiki in the drama. After the performance of this drama, one day an invitation came from Bethune Society. They invited him to talk on the topic Muslim and feeling. This was Ravindra's first public speech. He spoke freely and fluently and also sang a few lines here and there. Between his lecture, the chairman of the society, Reverend Krishna Mohan Banerjee, praised Ravindranath. When Rabindra was 21 years of age, he once again left for England with his nephew, Satya Prasad. Their family members wanted them to become barristers, but by the time they reached Madras, Satya Prasad had become physically and emotionally ill, so both of them returned home. Rabindra went to Missouri to ask forgiveness of his father. Maharshi told him that God does everything for good only. Later, Rabindra toured all round India. Darjeeling attracted him. The coast of Karwar in Karnataka entranced him. Here he finished writing his play Prakriti Pratishtodh. In 1883, Rabindranath married Pranalini Devi. Within 6 months of their marriage, his sister-in-law Kadambari Devi committed suicide. She had been a childhood companion to Rabindranath and had taken care of him after his mother's death, loving him and encouraging him all along. Now Rabindranath was full of grief due to her unexpected tragic death, but he did not lose control of himself, nor did his talents diminish in spite of the great loss. Rabindranath used to call his wife as Chotuba, meaning little bride. They later had 3 daughters, Bela, Rani and Meera, and 2 sons, Rathindra and Samindra. In Rabindranath's popular story, Kabuliwala, we come across a character called Mimi who seems to resemble his daughter Bela. Rabindranath was not interested only in writing, literature, and music. He was also keen about the progress of his motherland. He took part in the second session of Indian National Congress at Calcutta in 1886. Dadabhai Naoroji presided over this session. Here, Rabindranath read his Bengali poem about his motherland. Other than these activities, he was also given the power and responsibility of Adi Brahma Samaj by Maharshi. Rabindranath used to compose music for his song. During the Magh Utsav, he sang some of the new songs he had composed for that. On hearing these songs, Maharshi said, if a king had heard this kind of music and poetry, he would have surely rewarded you. Now I have to do that. And he gave Rabindranath a prize of 500 rupees. Rabindranath had been writing his works continuously after his marriage. Between 1883 and 1890, he wrote many poems, short stories, novels, plays, and essays. He also had the responsibility of his family and he managed it well. His works were being published from time to time in journals and magazines like Balak, Prachar, Sanjeevani. Manasi was his best work during this time. This consisted of poems, most of which he had written in Ghazipur. In 1890, Rabindranath went to stay at a beautiful village called Shelaida, which was on the bank of river Padma. He stayed there in order to look after their family's estate. He could not take his family along with him. As his children were very young and his wife Mrinalini Devi had many responsibilities, so he left them at Calcutta while he stayed at Shelaidhar. Rabindranath took a liking to the simple way of life in the village and the simplicity of the villages. This was the first time he got a real picture of the rural India. As his contact with the villagers grew, he was more convinced that for our country progress, the welfare and development of these villages are very important. How could India develop if the majority of its population living in the villages or backward? Rabindranath started thinking deeply of how these poor and helpless people could be helped and how to improve their condition. He knew that pitying them or giving them money could not improve their condition. He thought that they should be made to realize their own situation. This awareness and hard work were necessary to make any kind of improvement. The workers of Rabindranath's land knew his interest in them. They respected their landlord highly and admired him. The villagers used to say about him, "We may not have seen God, but we have seen a godlike person here." Rabindranath wrote many pieces in his village, sitting on the bank of river Padma. The stories he wrote here were later published as Galpagucha. Most of these stories are about villages. Postmaster was one of his first short stories. At the same time, he also wrote a play called Chitrangada. He had deep interest in Bengali folk music and folk tags. He used to adopt the style of folk songs and music while composing some of the song. One of his songs, "I love this golden land, Bengal," and now this has become the national song of Bangladesh. He wrote many plays during these years. Mayar Khela is one play which he wrote at the request of Saki Samiti, a women's organization. He also wrote two other plays, Raja or Rani and Visarjana, and he himself played a role of Vikram and Raghupati in these plays. His acting was praised by one and all. In 1890, when Satyendra left for England, even Rabindranath accompanied him. He stayed there for only 3 months. He could not live away from his daughter Bella and son. When he returned, he once again went to stay at Shelaida. Now he spent most of his time living in their houseboat Padma on river Padma. He frequently traveled to places like Kaligram, Patisar and other where they had lands. One day at his farm in Shahjaspur, one of the workers was late for work. Rabindranath was very unhappy about this and wanted to take the worker to task. But when the worker gave his reason, Rabindranath's repentance was beyond measure. The worker had said, "My 8-year-old daughter died. I had gone to bury her. I apologize for being late, master." Rabindranath was very much disturbed by the many phases of their life which was full of sorrows and troubles. He started working towards solving their deep-rooted problems. Many times he would give practical advice to the villagers. Many of Rabindranath's friends would come to meet him. Among the important ones were Akshay Kumar, an historian, Jagadish Chandra Bose, a scientist. Children could learn a lot from the company of these talented friends and visitors. During autumn season, the entire family of Rabindranath would get together They would sit in the houseboat and sail back and forth in the Padma River. During holidays, his friend Jagadish Chandra Bose would also join them. Being a good swimmer, Rabindranath used to teach his children to swim. He also taught them Bengali language. The Patriot. Rabindranath was once invited to sing at a Congress meeting. All the members and leaders came to the meeting dressed in English style and they gave speeches in English. But Rabindranath appeared in the traditional Bengali style, wearing a dhoti and a shawl. He wanted to change the idea that speaking and addressing like the British would make Indians equal to them. He wanted them to realize how precious their culture and tradition was. He insisted that each and every person would learn his or her mother tongue. In one of his essays, he has written that just as a child nourishes on his mother's milk and grows healthy and strong, in the same way the mind and the soul will grow strong and healthy through learning the mother tongue. 2 years later, in 1894, a regional congress session was held in Dhaka. Here, Rabindranath translated the English speech of the chairman to Bengali. From then, the custom of speaking and communicating at public conference was done in Bengali language. He wanted to make Indians aware of Indian art and craft. He opened a Swadeshi Bandar in Calcutta. His writing between 1892 and 1900 show us that he was thinking deeply about the various problems of our country. To make Indians realize how great their country and heritage were, he wrote poems narrating the great incidents in our history and about the heroes and heroines of our country. He published them in a book called Katha Ho Kahani. He was also continuously trying to make the people understand that villages are a major and important part of India, and only by the development of these villages the progress of India was possible. In 1908, the provincial conference was at Padma and Rabindranath was elected as its president. For the first time, the presidential address was made in Bengali language. Now he took over as the editor of their magazine Bharati. Then his brother started a new journal called Vanga Darshana. Shantiniketan. Rabindranath was convinced that to prepare the minds of our people for development, education was the basic necessity. He wanted to establish a Gurukul at Shantiniketan, their house at Bolpur. He wanted to convert it into a school where children could really learn in a calm and free environment. Maharshi liked this plan and permitted Rabindranath to start the school. On the 22nd of December in 1901, the school was inaugurated. He not only used their big house, which was already there, but also purchased 7 acres of land around it. At first, he started a library and a laboratory for the children. In the beginning, he used to experience shortage of funds. He then sold some of his wife's jewelry in order to overcome the shortages. The setting up of this institution also needed much energy and hard work. Rabindranath was not disturbed or disappointed, though many difficulties came in his way. Latterly, he also had some sorrows in his personal life. The same year, his beloved wife died. 6 months later, his second daughter Rani died. In 1905, Maharshi passed away, leaving Rabindranath in a sea of grief. 2 years later, in 1907, his son died of cholera. But Rabindranath kept his personal grief aside and constantly concentrated his effort in running and organizing the school, Shantiniketan, which had been his dream. The aim of the school was to make education an inseparable part of people's lives. Classes would go on in open spaces under the shadows of tree. The teachers and students lived together. Rabindranath's opinion was that knowledge should be gained by living close to nature. People should work amidst nature. Music should be given importance and people should often hold functions and celebrations. Rabindranath devoted his life to the activities of Shantiniketan. The school started growing bigger. Art and painting, music, dance, and other subjects were introduced as study syllabus. He dreamed that there would be a fusion of old and new, of Western and Eastern culture, and that way they worked for the general good of the world. He started working to make this dream come true. At Shantiniketan, students used to get free food and other educational facilities. There were no barriers or distance between students and teachers. Both teachers and students lived a simple life at a Gurukul. They did not give importance to material comforts. They were close to nature. Literature was given importance to Rabindranath. He encouraged the students to know more and more about music, literature, Indian civilization, and tradition. Efforts to be united. In 1905, the Viceroy Lord Curzon decided to divide Bengal into two halves. He had thought of joining Bihar, Orissa, and Western Bengal into his big province, with a governor to administer it. He wanted to make Calcutta as the center. The reason he gave for this division was that far off places could not be administered from Calcutta, especially those places like Chittagong and Noakhali. This would surely facilitate administration, but the motherland of Bengalis was being split. This would lead to the distance and separation of the people of Bengal. This would also divide the Hindus and Muslims of Bengal. The British had revised that Bengalis were wise and practical. They would always work for the progress of their land. The British officials believed that for their own advantage the British should adopt the policy of divide and rule. They thought that this spirit of unity and progress could be lessened only by the partitioning of Bengal. When the Viceroy declared his plan of partition, people protested against it. They protested that Bengal was their land and they would not let it to be divided. At this time of crisis, Rabindranath left Shantiniketan temporarily and rushed to Calcutta. Being their national poet, he thought that it was his duty to encourage and inspire his people to be united. He composed one patriotic song after another. These songs became popular in all corners of the country. In order to strengthen the unity of Bengalis, the Rakhi festival was celebrated in a special way. On the morning of the festival, a procession taken out by the people through the streets of Calcutta. Rabindranath led this procession. Large crowds of people had gathered everywhere to witness this procession. Patriotic songs were heard everywhere. Women blew conch shells and scattered handfuls of popped rice on the marching people. The people in the procession sang, "Bless our Bengal, O Lord, bless its land and its water." People in the crowd tied Rakhi to other persons. No one was ignored. They greeted each other and tied Rakhi without thinking whether they were rich or poor, Hindu or Muslim, high caste or low caste. There was a huge meeting that afternoon at Bhag Bazaar. Rabindranath took active part in its gathering. A huge tin box was kept on the dais. The words Matri Bhandara was written in big, bold, white letters on his box. Responding to Rabindranath's appeal, the people at the gathering came one by one to contribute that they could fund for this national Finally, it exceeded 50,000 rupees. Rabindranath thought that Bengali youth would come forward to strengthen their motherland from within. But he was very disappointed and ashamed when the youth took part in terrorist activities against the British. He had always told that villagers should achieve self sufficiency and the nation must become strong. He advised that it was not enough to fight against the British, but it was also necessary for them to maintain unity and friendship among Hindu and Muslim to solve the internal problems. He said that it would be impossible to carry out the non cooperation movement if people were not united and strong. But seeing the angry reaction of the youth, he was very hurt. In 1908, the Provisional Conference met at Pabna and elected Rabindranath as its president. He repeated the ideas he had expressed in his essay Swadeshi Samaj. Due to the load of work he was doing, he had not paid attention to his health, so he returned to the village. At this time, he decided to translate some of his poem collection. A few months later, he left for England. He continued his translation even on the journey by ship. In London, Rabindranath's friend and a famous artist, Sir William Rothenstein, read his translated poems. He was so impressed with Tagore's work that he took them to the famous Irish poet. This great poet realized that the value of Tagore's poem. They were beyond words to praise him. Among them, C.F. Andrews admired Rabindranath the most. He had been a teacher at St. Stephen's College in Delhi, but he was so much influenced by Tagore and his work, but he left his job in Delhi in order to join Shantiniketan. Andrews was moved when he saw the poor and exploited people in India. He decided to help these people and solve their problems. He sacrificed most of his time and energy for his activity. Everybody now started calling him Deenabandhu. Andrews spent the rest of his life with Rabindranath. He introduced Rabindranath to his two new friends. One of these friends was Willie Person, who was very interested in Indians and Indian culture. The other friend to whom Andrew introduced Rabindranath was Mohandas Karamchandra Gandhi. Both of these friends remain lifelong champions of Tagore. Rabindranath himself gave Gandhiji the title of Mahatma. Gitanjali had been published as a book in 1912. After Tagore had returned to India, he got the Nobel Prize for Literature for his Gitanjali in 1930. His achievement was not only the first in India but also in Asia. This was the first work of the Asian to earn so much admirable and recognition from the greatest thinkers and scholars of Western nation. Rabindranath visited America and gave speeches about Upanishads and Indian religion principles and messages. Rabindranath used the money he got along with the Nobel Prize for Shantiniketan. Vishwabharati. In 1918, Rabindranath had to face two great personal tragedies. His close companion, Person, was accused of anti-British activities and was sent back to England. The other incident was the death of his daughter Bella. Bella had grown to be very close to Rabindranath and her death brought him unbearable grief. But putting aside these sorrows, he completely involved himself in his various activities. He wanted to start an international university by name Vishwabharati. In this university, scholars from all over the country would come together. By teaching other scholars and learning from them, scholars could enrich their knowledge. The foundation stone of this university was laid in December 1918. Just a few months after Vishwabharati was started, the tragic incident of Jallianwala Bagh took place. It was an incident in which a British officer ordered the police to shoot at innocent people who had gathered at Jallianwala Bagh. Thousands of people, including women and children, were mercilessly killed in this incident. As a protest against this inhuman action of the British, Rabindranath refused to accept the knighthood which was conferred on him. The title of Sir is given to the person who is knighted. Rabindranath refused to accept this honor. Tagore wanted to make Vishwabharati an international university, so he tried to bring together the culture, science, and arts of other countries and the science, arts, and culture of India. People who upheld truth and those who considered themselves as citizens of the world were welcomed here. There was no difference made on the basis of caste or religion. Even now, the students here learn the teachings of all religions of the world. The aim of this institution was to achieve world peace and universal brotherhood of all the people of the world. Immediately after starting this university, Rabindranath went on a world tour. Everywhere he talked and discussed about his university with the scholars and learnt. He visited England, France, Germany, Holland, Belgium, Switzerland, Austria, Norway, Sweden, Japan, Egypt, Iran, Iraq, and other countries. He spread the principle of Vishwabharati in these nations. He invited the scholars of these countries to visit Vishwabharati. By this time, more than 20 of Rabindranath's work were translated into English and other European languages. His work had become popular in Europe and he got hearty welcomes wherever he went. Among the important people who welcomed him were Henry Louis. Levy was the first to accept the invitation of Tagore to visit Vishwabharati. On December 23, 1921, Rabindranath Tagore dedicated Vishwabharati to the people of his country. This included land, buildings, library, the prize money, the books he had collected, and such other properties. Vishwabharati was also a research center. New departments like Vidya Bhavana, 1918, Kala Bhavana, 1919, Sangeeta Bhavana, 1919, Shiksha Bhavana, 1921, Shriniketa, 1922, Shilpa Bhavana, 1937, China Bhavana, 1937, and Hindi Bhavana, 1939 were started. These covered various fields like music, education, and others. Among these, Sriniketan was a special one. The aim of this department was to bring about rural development. When Rabindranath had lived in a village, he had become aware of the problems of the villagers. He had a wish that agriculturists should be taught better ways of growing crops, rearing animals, and also that village craft like weaving, craft making should be encouraged. He thought that this could be done more effectively by having a separate department for this. This dream came true in the form of Sriniketan. The word Shri signifies prosperity, happiness, and beauty. Rabindranath wished that through his department called Sriniketan, the problems of villagers would be solved and they should be prosperous and contented. He wanted the villagers to be self-sufficient. Among other functions, Sriniketana also gave advice and lessons about rearing cattle, bees, and poultry. In 1907, he became the president of the conference of the first Bengali Literary Festival. He earned many titles like Kavi Samrat, Bharat Bhaskar, and others. He started painting in little late in life, when he was nearly 60 years old. But even then, one could notice the hidden talent he had for painting. He paid more attention to painting when he went abroad. In 1924, he had been to South America. His poor health was troubling him and he needed a peaceful atmosphere to relax. He stayed for some time in a peaceful and beautiful atmosphere at Buenos Aires. As he was recovering, he started writing the Puravi poems. He also started drawing pictures and painting them to match his poems. He discovered the effect of lines and colors and was fascinated by them. In 1930, he made his last visit to foreign countries. He visited France, England, Germany, Denmark, Russia, and America. His paintings were exhibited in these countries. Rabindranath Tagore's style of painting was unique. Many Western art critics tried hard to understand the meaning of his paintings. Finally, they decided that though he had not followed the rules of paintings, he had developed his own style of expression which could not be ignored. They thought that his art could come under the category of modern art. Tireless work. By this time, he had written more than 80 books. He had composed nearly 1,000 songs. His songs were sung not only by Bengalis but also by people of different regions. Especially his patriotic songs were very popular. Among these was also Jana Gana Mana. Tagore had never thought that this would be our national anthem. He also wrote some works under returning to India. Some of his most memorable poems and poetry collections are Manasi, Kahini, Katha, Sisu, Kheya, Naivedya, Gitanjali, Bhalaka, Palakatha, Lipika, Puravi, Punaksha, Prangtik, Navajatak, Janmadin. Many of the characters of Tagore's play represent a deep thinking, spiritual and philosophical man, which may be a reflection of Tagore himself and his thoughts and ideas. Among his important plays are Valmiki Pratibha, Vasarjana, Baikunthar Kata, Hasya Kautuk, Saradostam, Hasya Kautuk, Raja, Dhakar, Achalatmak, Rakta Karabi, Nrityanatya, Thashir Desh, Nati Puj, Achalatma. Among these novels, Ghora, Ghare were popular. Galpa Gucha and Galpasalat are two collections of stories by Tagore. His essays covered a variety of fields and were written in great style. They were the expression of his thinking, his experience, and wishes. Among them, the important ones are Vichitra Prabandha, Chaitra Puja, Samaj, Samuha, Stabda Thava, Dharma, Chanda, Kalantara, Vishwa Parichaya. He also wrote many letters from the places he visited. Jeevan Smriti, Chinna Patra, Banu Shringar, Patrabali, Chelo Bella are some of the collection of his letters. He painted works or under the title Chitralipi Volume 1 and 2 in 1940 and 1951 respectively. They give information about his artistic talents. If we observe the last 20 years of Tagore's life, we can get a better idea of his creativity. In 1921, Tagore was 61 years old. Most of the people at this age give up active life and wish to live a restful life, peaceful life, easy life. But Tagore was not ready to relax. He had the determination that he should complete all the activities he had taken up. Whenever he had health problems, he would drop his work for some time and would go on tours. He had toured throughout India and also many countries of the world. Between the age of 60 and 75, he was busy with all kinds of activities. He visited new places and gained more knowledge and experience with each other. He gave lectures at many places. He explained and spread the principle of Vishwabharati to the people of other countries. He had also visited Australia and New Zealand. He travelled through South India in 1922 and Western India in 1923. He toured Japan, China, and South America in 1924. And in 1926, he went to Europe and the next year to Southeast Asia. In 1929, he visited Canada, Japan, and Indochina. He then went to France, England, Germany, Denmark, Russia, and America in 1930. In 1932, he visited Iran and Iraq. In 1934, he visited Ceylon. In 1932, he visited Northern America. He showed great interest in knowing about other countries and understanding the people of these nations. In his letters and writings, he wrote about the places he visited, the visitors he met, and the friends he made there. Among his traveling, the important ones are Europe, Prabhasir Patra, Japan, Jatri, and Russia, Chitti. With his curious nature and the ability to mix freely with all people, he gained many admirers and friends. His work were translated and they captured the minds of the people of different countries and languages. At that time, there were no other Asian whose work were translated into so many languages. Tagore and Gandhi. Tagore's story will be incomplete without a look into his association with Mahatma Gandhi. Though they had difference of opinion about politics, it never came in the way of their love and respect they had for each other. Gandhi's leadership qualities impressed Tagore. Tagore praised his generous nature, liberal ideas, and his greatness. In 1936, when Tagore was 75 years old, the funds were inadequate to run the institution. He had also made huge debts. In order to collect funds, Tagore decided to produce and perform his play Chitrangada at different places. He travelled from place to place with his troupe. He went to Calcutta, Patna, Allahabad, Lahore, and Delhi. Gandhiji was moved to see his 75-year-old friend working so hard to collect money. To help Tagore, Gandhiji collected 60,000 rupees with the help of his followers. This came as a great relief to Tagore in his life too. The next year, Tagore was quite ill. Gandhiji often inquired about his health. As per Gandhiji's appeal, Tagore did not travel much after 1935. His journeys were limited to Bolpur, Calcutta. Now his life became like a restricted days of his childhood. The difference was that he was not controlled by servants, but the circumstances controlled him. In his last days, he used to live in 3 houses, Shamlini, Punascha, and Udichi. In order to get a change of surroundings, he would move from one house to another. During this time, World War II started. Rabindranath was pained but was helpless when he saw how the British exploited Indians and forced them to help the British in war. His health was constantly troubling him. He knew his end was nearing but was not afraid of death. He would often say, "I am leaving only because I love this land." In 1940, Gandhiji came to Bengal and visited Tagore. Then Tagore gave him a letter in which he had appealed that Gandhiji should accept the responsibility of preserving Vishwabharati. Gandhiji replied that he would surely do everything possible for this university. Later, Gandhiji kept his promise. Vishwa Bharati was made into a central university. 22nd of Shravana. Tagore preached about Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, and Saundarya Yoga. He said that man should leave his selfish nature and become a Karma Yogi or a duty bound individual. He said that such a man will find happiness and contentment. He described his happiness as nectar and said that it consisted of all the knowledge man needs to have. Tagore's illness was troubling him, and the doctor decided on a treatment. He was taken to Calcutta for treatment. Then the students of the ashrama and the villagers cheerfully sent their beloved Gurudev. But this health did not improve. Even with treatment, on the afternoon of 7th August 1941, he passed away. His close companions, followers, admirers, and others felt that the world had come to a standstill. It was the 22nd of Shravana of Rakhi festival, and a very sad one. It was the day India and the whole world lost a great human being.